That is the missing ingredient. The missing ingredient is your own intuitive knowing, what you know inside of yourself about your own healing. You are the authority on your own experience. Hello and welcome back to Remember Why You're Here, a podcast for seekers and sensitives where you can relax, receive, reconnect to yourself, and remember the most important thing of all, why you're here. I'm Asia Suler, author, earth intuitive, teacher, and in this special podcast episode today, I wanted to talk about the one ingredient I often see missing in a healing journey. You could also call this the hidden ingredient. It's the thing that tends to be the key that unlocks the kind of healing we've been dreaming of. And it's the thing where when we don't have it, it seems like that healing is always elusive. And I really wanted to talk about this because this one thing can change so much. So that is what we're going to talk about today, this missing ingredient with healing. And before we get started, I wanted to let you know that my in-depth flagship course, Intuitive Plant Medicine, is currently 40% off until June 4th. It's kind of a nutty discount, but I just feel so passionate about making this information more available right now. Intuitive Plant Medicine is an 8-week journey into becoming an intuitive plant healer, in learning how to communicate with the living world and discover your own unique medicine. You don't need to be an herbalist to step into the course. In fact, we've had people from all walks of life because the course is really about how to connect with the earth, how to work with the innate healing that is available to us, to understand our unique brands of intuition, to open up to the possibilities of natural healing that exists here on this planet, and to discover our own unique medicine. So the course is 16 videos, over 500 pages of PDFs. We have 24 different bonus contributors, herbal luminaries around the world who are teaching inside of this course, a whole Q&A library. And to date, we've been running this course now for 10 years and we have over 4,000 graduates. Some amazing things have been said about this course, the way in which it has changed people's lives. And I just simply want to make this kind of healing available to all those who feel called. So if you're interested, you can check out the link here or head on over to my website and see if it's the right moment, the right season for you to step into intuitive plant medicine. So let's drop into it. What is the one missing ingredient that I have seen most often as a practitioner, as a healer, as a teacher in people's healing? Here it is. The missing ingredient is your own inner knowing. This sounds simple, but it is something that I see again and again, that we short circuit, we doubt ourselves, we forget that our own intuition, our own inner knowing is the missing ingredient. And often when things are not working, are not clicking, are not moving ahead, it's because we have become disconnected from our own inner knowing, because we are doubting our own intuition. I saw this again and again throughout my years in private practice when I was working one-on-one with folks, that it would often be that little idea someone had, or it would be that plant that crossed their path that they were interested in, that we ended up adding into a formula that shifted the tides. It was always that little glimmer, that little piece of someone's inner knowing, someone's intuition that ended up moving the dial forward. I was recently talking to a doula friend of mine, and she was saying something along the lines of the fact that I think her exact words are, if I had $1 for each time one of my moms or one of my family members thought that there was X, Y, or Z going on with their child, and they brought it to the doctor, and the doctor said, no, that can't be it. And then it ended up being that, or they ended up somehow being dismissed, but the very intuition they had had about their own child was absolutely correct. She said, if I had $1 for every time that happened, I would be a rich lady. And I think this is so true. We grow up, many of us grow up in systems where we're told to not trust our intuition, to not trust our inner knowing, to give our inner knowing or give our authority away to other people. But meanwhile, that is the missing ingredient. The missing ingredient is your own intuitive knowing, what you know inside of yourself about your own healing. You are the authority on your own experience. And I think so much of our life experiences of having illnesses or challenges or pain or debility or just having things fall apart is often driving us back into relationship with our own intuition, into relationship with our own inner knowing, reminding us that truly the answers are within. And sometimes the things that occur in our life are occurring to bring us back into that connection. I know for myself, my whole journey into healing and into teaching, into working with plants and intuition and my own sensitivity, into channeling work, into the spiritual world, it all came from having what I told was an incurable pain condition. And that for me is what opened the doors when I realized that what I was picking up on was different than what I was being told, that I was being offered solutions that didn't match who I was, that didn't match what I felt to be true. And when I started forging my own path and listening to that inner voice, everything changed for me. And I see this over and over and over again in my line of work and with the people I work with, is that most of us have been on some sort of journey like this, where we've been forced to once again trust our intuition and our inner knowing. So what is intuition? Let's talk a little bit about what intuition actually is, because I think that having this definition is really helpful. So by definition, intuition is a knowing that bypasses our conscious analytical mind. It's not about logic. It's not about reasoning. It's something that we tend to just comprehend spontaneously, like, that, or that direction, or that thing, or I wonder. It's a kind of feeling sense rather than a rational deduction. It's an understanding that precedes what we consider logic or reasoning or inference. That's intuition. We all have access to intuition. Intuition is part of our makeup. It is part of who we are. So where does intuition come from? Well, I believe intuitive information arises from what I call our wider knowing, or our wider selves. It's the aspect of ourselves that some people call our higher selves. I like wider selves. And it's streaming in from this wider knowing to help us navigate our lives, to help us stay on task with the blueprints of our lives, what we came here to learn, what we came here to experience. And while it's coming from our wider selves, intuition also lives inside of our bodies. It lives in our connections to the more than human world. It lives inside the earth, and it lives inside our relationship to our own self and to our wider sources. So intuition is something that streams in from the realm of wider knowing or wider consciousness, but that we access through presence, through connection with ourselves, through connection with the wider world. So I do like to define a little bit of what is intuition versus what is instinct, because often the two are conflated, and that's for a reason. They do intertwine with one another. So intuition, in my experience, even though it can be felt and experienced inside the body, and the body is actually a really important gateway in order to receive intuition, intuition goes beyond the body. It's a lived experience that is often designed to help us move in the direction of our soul's greatest growth. So intuition comes from this wider knowing, this soul place, this wider self place, and it helps us navigate our life towards the direction in which our soul will experience its greatest unfolding. Instinct, when we sort of overlap the two, instinct is arising from the deeply wise animal of our body. Our bodies are here to help guide us in this lifetime, to help us survive, but also help us in our own soul's unfolding. So instinct is more interested in helping us to survive, helping us to navigate a situation. Instincts are incredibly important, and we need both. We need instincts and we need intuition. And ideally, I think instincts and intuition are meant to work together. They are meant to help you navigate your life, keeping our body safe while our soul expands into its greatest potential here on earth. So in my experience, when our instincts become muffled or disrupted, it can be helpful to learn how to tune into our intuition, because Oftentimes we've had experiences inside of our body that make it feel unsafe to be here, unsafe to trust our own instincts. Maybe we've been telegraphed that our instincts were wrong because it didn't align with what someone else wanted of us or from us. And so when we become distanced from our instincts, sometimes tapping into our intuition can actually help us get back in our bodies and reclaim our instincts once more and allow the two to begin to intertwine. Now, I want to talk about all of this, and I love talking about all of this to sensitives in particular, because as sensitive people, we are gifted with a lot of intuition. Intuition tends to be one of our strong suits. And in order to access the clearest intuition that we have available for us, we need to learn self-trust. So this is something that I see that is so huge for so many of us sensitives, is that from a young age, we were taught not to trust ourselves, not to trust our bodies, not to trust our needs, not to trust the spidey senses that we have, not to trust our intuitions. I think some of this is because we're often picking up on really subtle things. We are extremely perceptive of our environments. It's how our nervous systems and our brains were built. And sometimes that is at odds with what the culture is asking of us, what our society or our family expects of us. We were often told to ignore what was going on inside of our body. Like, it's too much for you to sit in this chair at school. You have to find a way to ignore that and transcend that. The lights in the dentist's office is too bright. Well, you have to overcome that. And so after a lifetime of being told to ignore our body's messages and ignore our intuition, sometimes it can be hard to trust ourselves. Many of us were also taught to mask. And so we spent a lot of our lives masking what it is our bodies actually wanted to do, masking how we actually wanted to interact in that experience, what our face actually wanted to do when we were talking to that person. So all of these things can sometimes create this space in which we have trouble trusting ourselves. We have trouble trusting what it is that we are picking up on. I think self-trust is a humongous part of a sensitive journey, especially because we are so attuned to subtleties that other people simply won't notice or pick up on. And so when you are an indicator species in this way, and I refer to sensitive people in the ecosystem of humanity as an indicator species, we are of course going to be the front runners who come up against and realize and have these experiences of shifts and changes that other people need to attune to, that other people maybe perhaps haven't recognized or perceived. So we are front runners in this way. And in order to really bring that information back into humanity, we need to be able to trust ourselves. I really think as sensitives, we're meant to attune inwards. So we're really good at attuning outwards. Like, I guarantee you're really good at tracking what other people are feeling, what other people need, but we're meant to be turning that tracker inwards so that we can sense our own instincts and our own intuition, and from there respond to the subtle stimuli around us, to the energetic currents of what's going on around us, and help guide those in our community towards more sustainable and more harmonious and more aligned ways of being. But as I said, learning self-trust is a process for us sensitives, especially when so much of our lives we're taught to not trust ourselves, to specifically not trust what we are picking up on or what we are feeling or what we need. And so a lot of this repair work and learning how to trust ourselves again is what gives us access to our intuition. And of course, we live, most of us, in an overculture where we are taught, especially when it comes to our healing, that other people know better, that other people are the authorities. And yet, what I've seen in my own life experiences and in working with hundreds of thousands of people around the world is that your intuition is the key to bringing in the healing that you deeply need, that you are all the time receiving messages and support and synchronicities and signs that are helping you to navigate your healing journey. And so in so many ways, you are the missing piece in your own healing journey. You as the authority, you as the person who can trust what they know and sense and feel inside of themselves. So even though I am someone who has been working with my own intuition throughout my entire career, this is like everything I do is based on this. I have been supporting hundreds of thousands of people around the world in developing their own intuition. I still had a very strong experience with this in particular after my daughter was born. So I had postpartum OCD, postpartum anxiety. It was a whole arc. It was a challenging experience. But what was really interesting is that what healed me was finally recognizing and honoring my own intuition. So here's the interesting piece. I never once in my life considered myself to be someone who had depression. I always thought, okay, on the end of the spectrums, I'd be on the anxiety end. Like that's where I would hang out. And this came from having really primary experiences with depression in my family of origin. I knew what this looked like and I thought, okay, that's not me. But after my daughter was born, I struggled. So not only mentally was I struggling, but also I developed a chronic pain condition yet again in my life when I was pregnant, and it didn't go away after she was born. And I was doing all the things, like, all the things that you're supposed to do when you are anxious and you have chronic pain, and things were not getting better. And it wasn't until I started listening to this little voice inside of me that said, hey, I think actually you should start taking herbs for depression. And it was strange because I didn't present as depressed. It didn't fit the clinical models. Now I know that there are certain kinds of depression that are extremely functional, that don't look like depression on the outside, but was what biochemically I was experiencing inside of my body. But it wasn't until, and this took years, it wasn't until I finally just listened to the voice inside of me and said, stop making these formulas that everyone else is telling you to make and just make the formula that feels right for you. Now, of course, this is coming also out of 15 years of practicing as an herbalist. So I knew the materia medica, I knew the constituents and the contraindications. Like you need to know, right? Like about physical medicine that you're putting inside of your body. But with this body of knowledge that I had, I went off book. I went away from what the traditional formulas are for postpartum anxiety, for dealing with chronic pain. And I just started making formulas based on my own intuition. I would go to my apothecary, I would mix things up, and I was truly amazed by the kind of shifts that I experienced. And it wasn't until I started taking this formula that I was able to look back and realize, oh, that was postpartum depression. Even though it didn't fit the textbook, even though it looked different, the way in which I started feeling differently made me realize, oh my Lord, like that whole time I was dealing with this immense heaviness and I didn't even fully realize it. And I would not have gotten there if I hadn't followed my intuition. Now, here's the thing. Depression, anxiety, when we're dealing with these things, we're often in survival mode, and it's hard to listen to your intuition when you are in survival mode. So my heart just goes out to everyone out there who's currently in survival mode, whether you're in the thick of dealing with a health condition or a loss, or you had a major life change, like just having a baby. These time frames, sometimes we just need to like kick our legs and keep swimming. But it's been really important for me, even as someone who's been doing this work for a long time, to remember my intuition is the missing ingredient. I am the missing ingredient. My inner knowing is what is missing from my own healing journey. So let's talk a little bit about how our intuition communicates. If you're following along and you're like, yes, I want to be able to tune into my intuition, to get those signs, to know what the next steps are. Here are some ways to be able to tune into that intuition for yourself. So first way in which our intuition communicates is through feelings and emotions. So this is a big one for us sensitives. Oftentimes we have been labeled as having too much feelings, too much emotion, but those feelings and those emotions are ways in which our intuition is communicating with us. So if you get a certain vibe when you walk into a room, or you just get a feeling about a certain book, or you have some sort of sensation within you telling you to move closer or move away, pay attention to that. These are subtle, but the more you listen, the more you'll realize that these are incredibly directive sensations inside of you. So even something something as simple as holding a bottle in your hand. Maybe you're going to go to your health food store and you're picking out a flower essence. Hold one bottle in your hand and just see any sensations that come up, any emotions, any feelings. Hold the other one and then see what happens with that. Our bodies are also places where intuition communicates. So like I mentioned, holding one bottle versus the other, noticing, are you leaning forward towards something? Are you leaning away from something? Our bodies are loud communicators, especially if you are a sensitive person. Our bodies will tell us when something needs attention, when something needs to be addressed. And so paying attention to your body, noticing how you feel when you're with certain people, noticing whether you feel heavier or lighter when you think about a certain healing protocol or what you want to move towards. I can't stress this enough, but you reclaiming your power in your own healing is so vitally important because you are the missing ingredient. Our intuition also communicates with us through signs and synchronicities. So you can ask for a sign, like if this is the right path for me to go down, have a red bird cross my path. And maybe that red bird will be on a trail that you walk, or maybe that red bird will show up in a magazine that you open. But ask for that sign. This is one way in which our wider selves and our intuition communicate with us. And then, of course, we have synchronicities. Synchronicities are meaningful coincidences. It's like, I was just talking about this book, and then I turned on my favorite podcast and they happened to be interviewing that author. And then I walked into work and my coworker was reading that book. Those are synchronicities. These are coincidences, I'm doing air quotes, that happen that aren't coincidences at all. They're actually pointing you towards something. They're drawing your attention in. And I often notice that synchronicities can be very pointed like that, like I need to read that book, but it can also just be the moment you step onto the right path, you just start experiencing synchronicities. Like you keep looking at the clock at 11:11. So it can be affirmation of the path that you're on. It can be drawing you towards a path, but just be aware of those. And I find it to be really helpful to keep a synchronicity journal. So often we have these little synchronicities happening all the time, but we will notice them more if we start to write them down. And when we start having those moments of doubt and those moments where we're really questioning ourselves, being able to go back to that journal and look at that synchronicity will show you that you are always guided, that there is support here for you, and that you can trust yourself because look at all the beautiful synchronicities you are experiencing. We also have intuition show up for us in our dreams, which is why I have a whole module in intuitive plant medicine specifically about dream work. Dreams are an incredibly rich place in which our wider self can communicate to us, can let us know which direction to go, what to address, what to invest our energy in. And so paying attention to your dreams, I often recommend for people to keep a journal by their bedside, write down whatever is there first thing in the morning, even if it's just a sentence, even if it's just a feeling or a song in your head, to write that down. Also, to try dream incubation. And this is a process where you write down a question before you go to sleep. And then first thing in the morning, just write whatever is there in your mind, whether it's a dream, a sensation, a feeling, any of those things, write it down. And you can do dream incubation once, or you can do it again and again. I often find if I continue to ask the same question, perhaps 3 nights in a row or every night for a week, the answer will just deepen and deepen and deepen. Dreams are such an incredibly potent place for us to connect to our intuition. I have had dream experiences after which I've had spontaneous healings, after which I've been told specifically what to do in order to heal myself or someone that I love. So dreams are not to be discounted. They are never just dreams. It is always a portal into this deeper awareness. So this is an incredible place to tune into and start attuning to your intuition. Now, everyone receives intuition differently. This is why I love talking about the clairs. For example, clairvoyant is you know something because you see it. You might be a very visual person. You might have the same advertisement come up again and again, or you might see an aura around a tree or a medicine that you need to be taking. Clairvoyants maybe sometimes have visitations. They might have like strong visuals. This is one way you might know. You might be clairaudient. You might know things because you hear them. Maybe a song comes on the radio, or you just hear words being spoken in your head that are giving you directives, or you hear a tone or something that shows you, okay, like pay attention right here. I find a lot of sensitives are clairsentient. That means you know something because you feel it. And this is the importance with turning our attention inwards to our feeling sense. What are you feeling inside of your body? What sensations are there inside of your body? What emotions? What is it that's coming up for you? In the somatic world, we call this ability to tune into our inner sensations interoception. And interoception is really important for sensitive people, especially because there's times in which it feels like we've had the experiences where it seemed like it wasn't safe for us to turn our attention inwards. Like we need to constantly be tracking our environment. We need to have our tracker outwards, but being able to turn your tracker inwards is so important because this is where so many of our senses and our feelings and our intuitions are arising from. And so being able to tune into this clairsentience, this part of you that knows because you feel, is so huge for us sensitives. Some sensitives too are also claircognizant. That means you know something because it just seems like it drops in your head. It's like the knowing is just there. It's like that voice in your head that's just like, do that, or I think, go that direction. Claircognizance it often comes in just seemingly out of the blue. And what I find is that when I simply listen to that, some pretty cool and amazing things and sometimes curious things can unfold. A question that I get asked a lot when tuning into intuition is, how do I know that it's intuition and not anxiety? Or how do I know that it's intuition, it's coming from my wider self and it's not, my survival brain or my ego mind? And thankfully, it's actually pretty simple, even though in the moment it may not feel that way. So intuition feels grounding and steadying. Anxiety will feel unsteadying or ungrounding. Intuition will often come in and be unemotional or emotionally neutral versus an anxietous message or fear-based message will come in with an emotion or a charge. Like if it feels very charged, it's probably not coming from your intuition. There's like a timelessness and unhurriedness about intuition. It's like, you could do that or you could not, versus anxiety normally has some sort of urgency around it. And, this sense of like, I need to do this and I need to do it now, or if this might happen or if. So intuition will create a sense of expansion versus anxiety will create this sense of constriction. Intuition also normally is non-judgmental. It's like, I'm not judging you either way. Like, you won't be bad if you don't do this, or you won't be good if you do this. It's just offered, versus anxiety often provokes feelings of unworthiness, guilt, or shame. So if unworthiness, guilt, or shame are coming up around the insight you've had, it might be more anxietous than intuition. I find with intuition, it creates a more flow in my life, more trust, versus anxiety might create the need for more control. Intuition sits in my body like I know, versus anxiety is a little bit more like I think. With anxiety, I often need to dissect or analyze, versus intuition, like it's just trusting in the knowing. And what I do find is sometimes intuition comes in and then we analyze it later. But what I'm looking for is that first moment that the idea come in. Like, how did it come in? Did it come in through dissecting something, or did it just kind of like float in a way where the moment it landed, I felt a little bit more expansive? There's a sense with intuition that you're open to the outcome. It's almost like the journey's more important, versus with anxiety, it's a little bit more of like you're attached to a very specific outcome, like it has to go this way. With intuition, there's more of a present-based focus, like here I am in the present, whereas anxiety, it can be more future or past focused, like based on the past, I need to do this, or if my future is not going to be awful, then I have to do this. And there's a calm awareness. So with intuition, there's a sense of, sometimes in that timelessness, it can be this sense of like just calm, and my awareness is just open in that moment. And it may not last a long time. It literally might just be a few seconds. But with anxiety, I feel more hypervigilance, more gripping, more like, oh, I really have to grab this before it goes. So those are some ways that I tell the difference between intuition and my anxiety, my brain, which likes to come in with its desire to control things and make the future better, all those things. And there's no shame in having that part of our brain. We literally all have it, but it is helpful to understand what is intuition versus what might be that survival brain, and to be able to trust when the intuition comes in because it's coming in with those qualities. So how do you tune in to your intuition? Well, the first thing, especially for sensitives, I'm going to say here is to create space. You need space in your life to be able to hear this intuitive voice, to be able to feel your body, space to think, space to experience, space to feel. So whatever that looks like for you, whether that's putting your phone down once a week, whether it's taking time alone in nature, whether it's somehow being able to shut down your to-do list and just not look at it for a time, the more space you can create, the more you're going to be able to hear that subtle voice of your intuition, the more you're going to be able to hear what's going on within you. Space in particular is really important for sensitive people because of the way in which we are attuned to and tracking our environments and tracking other people. We often need that kind of space and alone time in order to tune in and feel. I often notice when I can't make a decision or when I feel overwhelmed, what I need to do is just put it all down for a day and go and sit outside, go for a hike, go be alone for a period of time. And it blows my mind sometimes how just being alone for a little bit will bring me so much insight. So create space when and where you can. Focus on your body and your sensations. The sensations in your body are not your antagonists. They're not here to punish you, even when they're painful, challenging, or hard. Your body is a spirit animal for you in this lifetime. They are your spirit guide. They are here to help you. So allowing the sensations to be there, tuning into the sensations, not being afraid of sensations in your body, not being afraid of your emotions, and knowing that the goal is not to fix them or transform them, but just to be with them. And often when we're with those sensations and we learn how to feel safe feeling our emotions or feeling our sensations, it automatically allows us to be able to hear the intuition that are attached to and connected with those sensations and emotions. This is a simple one, but it's an important one. Ask the questions, ask for help. If you want to receive guidance, oftentimes there's a spiritual rule, which is that assistance is on offer for us, but we have to ask. So, ask the question, pick the tarot card, do the book divination, pull the book off the wall and open to a page, ask for a sign. Where I see some people get a little stuck sometimes with this is asking and asking and asking and not trusting what comes up. So what I will recommend is to ask the question, and then whatever you receive, sit with that for a period of time before you ask again. Because sometimes we can get stuck in that loop of asking without receiving, and knowing that sometimes the receiving is not that perfectly packaged cognitive answer. Sometimes it's a feeling sense. Sometimes it's an energetic shift, and that download will unfold over time. So whatever it is you receive, sit with that. Try to be present with it first before asking again. I also tell people all the time, lower the stakes, start small. Don't start with the absolute biggest thing in your life. Start with something small like, what should I have for dinner? Which book should I read next? And then follow those hunches. Like when you have a hunch about something, especially when it's low stakes, follow it, because the more we follow the little hunches, the more we're going to train our psyches and our nervous systems to trust that it's okay to actually listen to our intuition, that this is valuable information inside of us. And that's so much of what we're doing here actually is just training ourselves to trust ourselves again, because that intuition never went away. It was always there. It's always available to us. It's just about working with the part of us that doubts, that doesn't trust. So trusting those hunches, taking those little leaps, throwing spaghetti at the wall and being like, okay, I'm just going to give it a try and see what happens. This can go so far to help us build self-trust. So let's do a really short guided exercise right now to help you feel your intuition. You can do this wherever you are at, and you can return to this exercise at any time. So start just by centering yourself in this moment. I find it's helpful to literally imagine the center of my body, the core of my body, and imagine bringing myself into that center so that I'm sitting there at the center of myself. Taking a deep breath in and out. Continuing to breathe deeper here. And with every breath in, just feeling yourself come more and more into your center of gravity. Now, I invite you to bring into your mind a small situation in which you're trying to make a decision. Let's not go very big this time, just something small. And I'd like you to narrow down the options here to just two things, just two different decisions that you could make in this scenario. And just see decision 1 and decision 2. Could even imagine them maybe as two different stones, two different palm stones here. Whatever can, in your mind's eye, represent these two decisions. And now put down both stones. Take a deep breath in and out. And now just pick up stone number 1, this first decision that you might make. And just bring your awareness in this moment to your body. What do you feel? What do you sense? Do you feel lighter or heavier? Do you feel expanded or constricted? Just allow the subtleties of how you feel to come into your awareness now. Approach this with a sense of curiosity. Very good. Now in your mind's eye, see yourself putting that first stone down and pick up stone number 2. This stone that represents the other decision you might make. Taking a deep breath in again here, and then turning your awareness once again to your body, to the sensations here. How do you feel now? Trying to use tactile words, maybe like heavy or light, bumpy or smooth. Just notice what's happening inside of your energy here. And maybe noticing the ways in which it differs from stone number 1 or decision number 1. And when you're ready, go ahead and put down stone number 2. Take a deep breath to reset. And come all the way back. Which option felt better to you? Which one did you feel more expanded or more spacious or lighter in a way that felt good for you? If you can imagine those two options again as those two stones, which stone are you most drawn to pick up again now? The answer might be very clear, or the answer might be very subtle. But just trust what you experienced. Trust what you picked up on. This is you connecting to your intuition. It can be that straightforward. It can be that subtle. But know that there was a difference between the two. And with that difference, that's information for you from your intuition that can help you take that next step. And that's all that's really ever being asked of us in our healing, is just to find the next step to take. And if we can take that step with openness, with curiosity, with non-judgment, neutrality, then so much beauty can unfold, because what we're really stepping towards is trusting ourselves, trusting our intuition, and that is where the deepest healing comes from. I really believe that learning how to trust our intuition is more important now than it has ever been. With the internet and AI, we have so many opportunities to export ourselves, to export our decision making and our authority, whether it is onto AI or whether it's to someone on social media. But ultimately, the deepest wisdom and the deepest knowledge is within us, and human intuition can never be replaced. Human intuition is the space in which all newness, all true invention comes into the world. It is you connecting with your soul, with your wider knowing. So I think developing this muscle, this skill of our intuition is more important now than ever. This is what's going to guide us, what's going to guide humanity. This is what the earth is asking us to remember so that we can step back into who we really are as humans and how we're really meant to exist on this planet. Self-trust is the currency of the future. If you can trust yourself in a grounded way, in a compassionate way, trust yourself to know which direction to take, to what is healing for you, trust yourself to hold yourself. This is truly the strongest foundation we can build for ourselves and for our children and for this world. Because ultimately we need practitioners, healers, mothers, caregivers, and creators who trust themselves. Because when we don't trust ourselves, we can't bring forth the vast beauty, creativity, and innovation that is within us. Trusting ourselves and trusting our intuition, that impulse that says, it's time to move here, it's time to try this, it's time to give this a shot. That is how we unlock so much healing for ourselves and for this world. So if this is really speaking to you, if you are ready to deepen your intuition, to understand how your unique intuition works, to work with the healing power of the earth as we step into this new era on this planet, I would love to see you in intuitive plant medicine. The course is not just for herbalists. In fact, most of the people who take this course aren't herbalists, are not actively working with plants. We've had everyone on this course, from accountants to lawyers to body workers to homemakers, copywriters. This course is about you. It's about you and your intuition and your unfolding. It's about connecting with your allies in the natural world to help you really see yourself, to see your gifts, and to unfold. So through the course, you will learn how to understand your intuition. You will learn the uniqueness of the gifts that you hold through working with things like plant allies, flower essences, on the body treatments, and my favorite all-time intuitive practices. These are the practices that I turn to again and again and again, that guide me in my life, that somehow never fail. I'm so grateful for these practices. You'll learn how to do things like channeling for yourself, shamanic journeying, dream work, place-based divination, and more. So like one of our students, Lori, said, I'm 60, I have no formal background in herbal medicine, acupuncture, etc., and no plans to pursue anything remotely related to those fields. Yet, when I got this in my email, despite real financial concerns, I instantly knew I had to take it. That instinct has proven to be so perfect. I've taken countless courses throughout my life, and this is undoubtedly one of the best ever. The density of content, the wonderful attention to detail, it adds up to a masterpiece. It is an utterly essential balm for the spirit in these challenging times. I would absolutely love to see you inside the program if it's calling to you, if your inner self and your intuition is nudging you towards stepping through those doors. And the program is currently 40% off until June 4th. So wherever it is your intuition is leading you, whatever it is that you are picking up on in your life right now, that you are working on healing, that you are moving towards, know that you are not holding this alone, that you are held by the earth, you are held by your own wider knowing, that your intuition never goes away. It continues to be here to support you, to help you in your own unfolding, to be there to guide you as you step deeper and deeper into the healing that is available for you in this lifetime. And as you remember that most important thing of all, why you're here.